there is energy somehow protecting you from something that could have come or happened wrongly to you. So probably there's a reason, there's a purpose that we cannot be able to understand in this instance.
The reason why we imprison you as a state is to ensure that you're actually streamlined and that you go through a correction, and this correction has to take away some of your rights.
Hello, I am Tamima and welcome to the Real Talk Around Table. Now we are continuing our series of specials where we are looking back at some of the most memorable moments across both Real Talk shows. Today I'll be focusing on shows that touched on something to do with the law. Either somebody was a victim of crime, either they were a victim of the law, just to find out what you and I perhaps need to remind ourselves from the shows that we've touched on in 2019. So the first show that I touched on, and literally this was the beginning of the new season this year, was the I Was Conned show. My guests were sharing with me experiences whereby they had been conned. I had with me on the show Peter Murithi, who was conned by his very own wife. Take a look.
So I waited for another man.
Lying to you, knowing very well, all those 1, 2, 3, 4 times you're sending her the different amounts, 100,000 here, another 100 there, hapeleki. Ukiulizia anakuambia, usijali.
Yeah,
pesa
exactly.
iko pale.
Pesa iko. Actually, that's what she used to tell me. Oh, don't worry, the money is there. And who was I to worry by then? Because
That's your wife.
That's my wife. And
So,
by that time, because she knew what had happened, she decided to be a little bit hostile. And I sensed there's something here that is not right.
do you think that you can ever trust a woman, a wife, again to that extent?
You cannot put a blanket condemnation on all women, because not all women are like that. And as a man, you really have to gather yourself together, put yourself together, and even moving on has been very difficult for me. It's been like 4 years since this happened.
I'm interested in buying a car, and I'd like to promote a brother within this fellowship. So I got like 3 or 4 offers of I can refer you here, I can refer you here. But I chose to go with the leadership of that fellowship, one of the leaders. So I told him, you refer me to someone because you are. I was willing even right there to transfer the money without any contract, you know, that kind of trust.
Because you trusted them.
Yes. So then this leader of the fellowship told me, no, Linda, do not do it that way. Let's meet somewhere, probably on Monday or Tuesday, so that you do things properly, so that there's a contract or something for purchase.
Which even for you, it's music to your ears,
Yes.
because you're probably thinking, oh my God,
Yeah.
these people are so nice,
Yes.
very trustworthy.
Yes. So we met on a Tuesday in Westlands, and he came with the drafted contract. I went through it, I was okay with it. And then we entered a deal. Ask that guy who was doing import to at least show you papers. There were no papers. So my brother said, as hard as you may find this, you have been conned.
How did that make you feel?
I cried.
650,000 Kenyan shillings.
So joining me on the round table right now with me, I have Eliud Ngugi, who is an advocate of the High Court. Welcome to the round table, Eliud.
Thank you.
I also have with me Nancy Kabiri, who is a psychologist. So they'll just be helping us along with some of the topics that we'll be discussing, letting us know which tips perhaps we need to use more often. So in the context of getting conned, everybody has been conned. I've been conned countless times, more times than I care to admit. Have you been conned?
Yes, I have.
Have you been conned?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so there we have, and you know, doing that show, it was very interesting because the audience also had a lot of experiences to share when it came to getting conned. Take a look.
Sasa si nikaingia kwa gari juu washaniambia ni punch na boycha punch ni do mingi. Nikaenda wakafika hapo Jericho akaniambia ndio confirm kama umeka viti ndani. Kumbe wasio walikuwa na haja na Infinix kangu. Wasio walikuwa wamevaa suti, hata ungeamini wanaweza kwa maconman, na sasa unajua ananiona. Simba.
Mungu anawaona.
Mungu anaona.
Alafu wewe ndio uende. Nikasema ni sawa tu, tukaenda tukajificha mahali. So akanitolea hizo cards 3. And he's like zieke ndani ya bag ndio upande nazo huko juu. I'm like why? So akalenga. Meanwhile kasema anyway, sasa ndio nibaki na kitu yenye nitakuaminia, at least nipatie phone yako ama ID ama some cash ndio nikuamini. Nikachora hapo, nikaanza kufikiria, but mimi ni nani? 20k ni pesa mingi bana. So I gave him my phone and it was worth 15k. So mi nikapanda juu, but niko na ile manze ujamaa atahepa na simu. I'm like manze ujamaa ni mzee hawezi. So I went kufika huko juu, naambia shika, nimeangukia. Umeangukia nini? Like sini 20k. No, like this is fraud. This imestikiwa hapa hivi na akaitoanisha. And I was like nimeisha.
Simu imeenda hivyo.
So phone ilienda hivyo and mpaka leo sijaimsikia. But the following day nilimsikia bado alikon to dem fulani tu hapo.
So Eliud, and you are in this show as well.
Yes.
So when it comes to getting conned, obviously there's the psychological, and sometimes, and this happened to me recently, it's not really a con whereby I was purchasing something, and then literally after I had paid, and I dropped WhatsApp to my friend, oh my God, I just bought this, I'm so excited. She sends me back a message of the same item at a different shop, and it was literally almost 20,000 shillings cheaper. It wasn't really a professional con, but I felt conned.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, like psychologically, it took me like a whole day just to accept this item that I had bought. And I'm like, But now I'm good with my item, I'm past it.
Yes, yes.
But now when it comes to the psychological nature,
Yes.
once somebody has gotten conned, how do you reconcile and just get past it?
Consider it a loss. Of course, you will have to go through the grief cycle because it is a loss. Allow yourself to accept it. Allow yourself to go through the emotions, the feeling. Don't over-obsess through the situation. Then let your heart heal. If it is an item that is physical to you, and you, like you in your case, where you are able to see what you purchased at a higher price than your friend, you know, maybe the quality is a bit different.
You know, talking
maybe
about it still hurts.
The built-in quality is a bit different. Consider that the salesperson is not the same
Exactly.
to you.
Yeah.
So that one you can quickly understand and, you know, also try and justify in terms of maybe the rent or where you bought it. But if it is something that is not tangible to you and you've actually lost it, allow your heart to go through it. Allow yourself to go through the grieving process. It is a loss, and accept it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens when the person who's conning you is someone who is very personal to you, a spouse, a parent, a sibling?
It will form an opinion, definitely. You will look at them differently. And that's who they are, you know. They get by probably by lying or deceiving people. Now, try and disassociate from them because if you keep tagging them along, they obviously know what your weakness is, and they'll be able to drain you from that point. So you get to put boundaries on people and, you know, choose who your friends will be, who you will associate with. Yeah.
And Eliud, now there is the legal aspect to this.
Yes.
Because sometimes the nature of the con actually now takes on a criminal nature. It's one thing to walk into a store, buy something at a higher price than what it's going for at the next store. That's legal. Yeah. Personally, you'll feel some type of way. But then there's the other types of cons whereby you have institutions, individuals going out of their way to actually come up with criminal ways to con people out of money, out of goods, out of services.
Well, where the con comes from an institution, for example, what is required is that we need to ensure that we file a class action. This is why you ask look for other similar guys who have gone through the same issue or con, who are also victim, and actually now with that make a complaint to the police. The police are able to now do the investigations, and in the investigations, and we are able to now proceed to the next level, which is the court.
And in the context of investigations, because when everyone we talked to, from Peter to Linda, everyone in the audience, when we were doing this topic, one thing came out very clear and loudly: you need to keep records. I have a friend who does this, and I don't get it. Like, it's very weird. You could literally go out for coffee, and he'll keep the receipts. And you're like, it's just coffee. Why are you keeping the receipt? It's like, you never know when I may need to defend myself about my whereabouts. So, like, this person has a habit of being very organized
Yes.
with any purchases that they make, any deals that they get into. And we may laugh in that context, but then it does become important, especially when you're moving large sums of money. Yeah.
So in that scenario kind of thing, when you have a situation whereby the person who was calling you had corresponded with you, for example, the special SMSs that we get telling you that send me this amount of money, and you have a record somewhere, this is quite important because it helps improving the crime that has already taken place. For example, if somebody called me on a purchase of land, for example, or a car, like in that show, I think someone was called over a car.
Yeah.
And there were agreements. And this is why, again, it's important to actually enter into written agreements with anyone you're buying something from. Then that will be important for you to provide or to actually restrict yourself to actually ensuring that it's not just a verbal conversation.
So basically protect yourself.
Protect yourself.
You know, have all the necessary record keeping, have all the necessary agreements. Verbal agreements cannot stand in court.
Yes.
Because there is no evidence.
It becomes very hard. They do stand, but then it becomes very hard because then we'll be required to request that you bring along witnesses.
But if there were no witnesses, it was just me and you.
Then it becomes very hard for you to prove it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, but when you have a document, for example, an SMS, you have an email, you actually entered into an agreement and they promised to deliver this on this day at this place and they didn't do it, then they disappeared with your money, then it becomes easier for you to actually prove that they have actually committed that crime.
You know, just to wrap this up, because we all know how hard it is to earn money, like literally everybody is struggling right now. So you want to make sure that you're taking all the necessary steps to protect your money. Do not be a victim. You know, we are living in a country whereby not everybody you meet is as innocent or as honest as they may come across to be. So just stay vigilant, because at the end of the day, trust me, there's nothing as painful as being out of money that you worked so hard to get, and then within seconds, it's gone. And then you have to follow up with the legal process, which can be a lot of drama. So basically just stay informed and stay educated. Another topic that we touched on was wrongly convicted. And this was a very sad topic because my guests were individuals who had actually spent years in jail, some 10 years, 12 years. And all of them were saying that they served time for crimes that they did not commit. I had on this show Joseph Mwenda, who spent 12 years in prison. Take a look.
Sababu kwa kuwa kama wangejua ni nani mwenye kutenda, basi wangenishika.
So ni kipi ambacho kilikuwa kimetendeka ndio sasa wanatafuta mtu wa kushika?
Ni mahali nilikuwa nafanya kazi, na baada ya kufanya kazi for 3 years and a half paliweza kuibiwa. Nilitoka 007 mwezi wa pili, na mwezi wa 4 tarehe 28 29 akaweza kuibiwa, na aliweza kuibiwa, na baada ya kuibiwa yeye hakufahamu na akina nani waliyemuibia. Nikakesi 013, nikaambiwa niendelee na hukumu ya kifo sababu nilikuwa nimehukumiwa kifo.
So sasa zile kesi ilienda mbele ya judge ama magistrate, ukapatikana sasa guilty verdict na ukahukumiwa death sentence.
Kwanza nikakaa from 09 mpaka 012 mwezi wa 3.
Na nani alikuwa anakusaidia kufuatilia kesi?
Naweza kusema ni Mungu. Sababu kuandika apili niliandika mimi, ikakaa miaka kadha wa kadha. Kutoka 09 ikakuja kuniita 012.
So wewe mwenyewe haukuwa na wakili wako wa kibinafsi?
Hapana, sikuwa na wakili.
Na familia yako?
Sikuwa na fedha ya kulipa. Ama familia yangu haikuwa ile nguvu ya kuweka ile wakili kwa ajili ya kunitetea.
So in the context of being wrongly convicted, so obviously from a psychological point of view, because speaking to a lot of these men, there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of grieving for the life that they could have had. So how does an individual like this try to get back into society and just basically pick up the pieces of his life?
Acceptance is one very important thing that we encourage most of the people who've gone through situations that they had no control or power over. Accepting that you were in the wrong place and you were convicted wrongly and you had nothing to do with that. You find a lot of peace and a lot of healing by just that simple acceptance. Then being able to pick up from where you can be able to start. First of all, I'd like to even commend those who went through that and they still have the zeal and the drive to go on with life. You know, looking back at what they could have probably achieved, there is probably some, I tend to think that in life there is energy somehow protecting you from something that could have come or happened wrongly to you. So probably there's a reason, there's a purpose that we cannot be able to understand in this instance. But them being able to pick up the pieces from where they are at and make their life better. You know, don't try and justify to people that, yes, I was convicted wrongly. Don't justify to people. But it also helps to talk about your story because it gives you a lot of healing from the inside. Talk about your story, your experiences, because you could be helping somebody else and you're also walking through that journey together.
And you know, the thing about being wrongly convicted, you might assume that this is something that happens to those within the society who perhaps are poor and may not necessarily be educated enough to understand the law or to defend himself. So it was very important to speak to Mzee Daniel Mushiri, who shared his story. He spent over 10 years in jail for a crime that he did not commit. And for him, how he ended up behind bars was very personal. Take a look.
I told them, I don't know about the robbery. I've never touched those harm they are talking about. And the little cash I have for my families and even for other subsistence usage. I imagine that it was just simple, but when after 2 days, no, after 1 day, I was taken to police headquarters in Mombasa. I found some senior officers, and I found another man who happened to be my neighbor.
Now, your neighbor where you lived at home?
Where I had a house and where I lived. And the senior officer told that man, this is the man. Eventually, my cousin talked to the officer in charge. That is Muratewa police station. And that officer in charge knew the man who victimized me. And she called us in our office. And she asked the man, why he is panicking and interested in Muse. And that neighbor of mine, she proudly said, I'm lucky that I was arrested. Otherwise, he would have killed me in 2 weeks. And the officer in charge asked him why. And he said that I was misbehaving with the wife. And the first question I asked myself, God, why do you allow me to be here? You know I'm an innocent person. Why do you decide to pick on me? And I tend to think the CCBC wants me to voice. That was me to voice told me that because of our duty for you to do in prison. And that's the time, after some few months, I initiated a program called Paraligo. I initiated Paraligo.
This is now at Shimolatewa prison?
At Shimolatewa prison, yes. I talked to another lady who was women representative from Nyeri. By then, she was the chairperson of Kituo cha Sheria. Through the officer in charge, we started Paraligo, and even now it has spread all over the country, prison.
And what is paralegal about?
It's about the issue of legal matters. So, I realize most of the people in prison, they are there innocently and ignorance of their own.
Okay, so Wakili, obviously when it comes to being wrongly convicted, I'm not gonna lie, we all know that we have a lot of challenges with our justice system. And without a doubt, sitting here today, there are so many men and women sitting in cells, probably for crimes that they did not commit or serving sentences that ideally should be much more reduced, either because they did not seek the right legal counsel or they just didn't understand the circumstances of their cases. So what does anyone need to know first when it comes to the process? By the time you're getting arrested, by the time you're getting charged, what do you need to know?
Well, you need to know that, for example, we have a constitution which provides the rights of an arrested person. You need to know that you have a right to actually be heard. And before the arrest is done, that you have a right actually for the details of the reason for the arrest to be actually outlined to you. And you're actually told, this is why you're arresting you, this is a crime that you have committed, and therefore we are going to arrest you. So you need to understand those basic rights before the arrest itself takes place, then you need to know that you have a right to representation. Even if you cannot afford a lawyer, then you can actually request that a lawyer, a pro bono lawyer, be granted to you. And so before you actually even convicted and taken to court, you need to understand those rights.
So tell me a bit about the pro bono lawyer.
The pro bono lawyer is provided by the DPP. We have a list of lawyers who have actually expressed their interest to offer pro bono services. And therefore, in case a criminal in this situation requests for a lawyer, then this request is actually granted, and one of us from the Law Society of Kenya is actually sent over to represent this person.
And are there cases where perhaps an individual might end up being tried without a lawyer because there aren't enough lawyers, or he can't afford a lawyer?
Yes, there are situations where there are a lot of cases whereby people have been tried without representation, either because of our ignorance or lack of it, or not even having the information that we have a right to be represented. And so there are such situations that have happened to us out there in the public domain, that you have actually gone through a trial without knowing your rights to be represented, without knowing that you can actually make a request for a pro bono lawyer to be placed in your case.
I think that's a very important tidbit of information, because at the very least, try as much as possible to get somebody who is on your side, who understands all the legal jargon and who understands how the system works. And maybe just on a lighter note, because we all saw our Nairobi governor getting arrested. So in the context of that being a governor, and that is how he was being arrested, what does that mean for you and me? Like, no, really?
Well, it means that any of us is actually, no one is above the law. Any of us is subject to the law, and therefore if you commit a crime, if you do a wrong in this country, then the law will come after you, regardless of your position, regardless of who you are. The law is able to come.
Okay,
yeah.
So right now
After
we'll be taking a very quick break. Remember that you can always get at me via the hashtag Real Talk with Tamima or via the SMS line. Let me know which of the shows that we've talked about so far was very impactful to you and perhaps your family. Get on that hashtag Real Talk. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk. So we are looking back at some of the most memorable shows that we've done this year, and of course, based off the impact from your feedback on the show, I did a show right here on the round table called Orphaned by Justice, because earlier on we were talking about being wrongly convicted when somebody ends up behind bars, and as a result of this, there can be some devastating effects within the family, because you have children who are left behind, either because a parent or both parents are behind bars. So what happens to them? So in this show, I met up with some children who had been affected by this. I sat down with Winnie Ndegwa, Joyce Kibe, and Phineas Muthoni. Take a look.
Me, I came to know about my mom's, whatever the thing, that she had been caught after 2 years. Yeah.
So for the 2 years?
For the 2 years, I just thought they had separated with my dad. So yeah, we were just kept in darkness by my dad. Yeah. I think he was trying just to protect us from that trauma. You know, there's that trauma that comes. Yeah. So he just kept on telling us that atarudi, unaona, she will come back.
Atarudi alikuwa ameenda wapi?
Yeah, so alikuwa anatuambia tu ameenda safari atarudi.
And did you believe him then?
You know, as a kid, you just have to believe. It's like kuna venye waligombana, but on my side, the side of my dad and the side of my mom, they weren't talking. So I went with my father's side.
Yeah. And were you the only child at the time?
No,
or you had
I wasn't.
Other siblings?
I had 2 sisters.
Younger than you or older?
Yeah, younger than me. Actually, one was a child suckling.
You were also a child, maybe a
no,
baby.
No, she was, a baby, yeah, baby, because she was still breastfeeding. Yeah.
So that's almost 1 year, 2 years?
Yeah, you can imagine. So she left the kid, and even, for me it was a bit at least. I didn't take it to the heart, actually, because for that long without seeing my mother, I had even forgotten her, so sikupata ile impact, ni kama nilikuwa nisha get used to kukaa bila yeye, so I didn't get the impact. I had to convince myself that I wasn't I wasn't an orphan. Yeah. Yeah.
Because she was your only living parent.
Yeah, she was my only living parent at the moment, and I had to reconnect.
Do you remember what it was like the first time you visited her in jail?
I'm not somebody to get that emotional, but with my sister, they really cried.
Kwa wakati ule kalikuwa kasichana kadogo, so nilihofia nikikaambia kaneza pata stress na kashindwe na masomo kwa sababu kana kwanga na shida ya sasa. So niliweka tu.
Why did mom go? Why did they have to take her away from me?
So you felt abandoned?
Yeah.
And the day you went to visit mom, what was that like?
Like that day, I said I'm not going back home. I'm staying there with mom, no matter what.
You wanted to stay with her?
Yeah.
So it must have been a very tearful day.
Yeah.
For the both of you. Yeah.
Mamangu alikuwa criminal. So hawataki kuitanishwa na sisi tena.
So kwa sababu mzazi wako ni criminal, familia ikawatenga nyinyi watoto.
Yeah.
Because sasa wanaona juu mzazi ni criminal, pia nyinyi sasa mmekuwa wabaya. Was it the same for you, Phineas?
No, mine was actually different. My extended family was kind of supportive at the time, although they came to support.
Okay, so Nancy, when it comes to the law and getting convicted, so there is also the social side of it, because it's not just the criminal or the individual who has been arrested and is behind bars who is affected. You have spouses, you have children. So what tips can you give any family that is dealing with a loved one being convicted or behind bars?
If it is, say, a parent and their kids left behind, the larger society, like the support structure, the grandmothers, the uncles and the aunties should be able to step in and play the role of the parent, and also talk to the kids according to their age, okay? Help them understand that there is an unfortunate incident that has taken place. The parent won't be around for some time. Then you will take up the role. You will ensure that they are in safe hands, that they get whatever they require. That way, the transition becomes easier for the children.
And
but
maybe just on that, because on this episode and what really came through, especially for the children, when they were younger and literally all the way through their teens, there was a lot of lack of disclosure, whereby the families did not necessarily know whether to inform the kids that the parent is behind bars. So it was like ameenda safari. Nobody would really...
A lot of that happens, even in instances of death. You find if someone has left children behind, the family is not comfortable, confident enough, or they lack the proper communication skills to tell these kids of what has happened. So in an instance where the parents are in jail, they also don't know how to tell these children because they don't want the children to look at that situation in a negative perspective. But remember, the child will only interpret information how you give it to them. So if you give the information to them in a way that it gives them hope, and that one day the parent will come back, they will live with that hope. But if you communicate to them in a way that it despises what the parent has gone through, they will obviously interpret it in that manner.
And
so
from maybe from an emotional well-being point of view, is it ideal for the children to also visit the incarcerated parents in jail?
Yes. It is important for them to know so that they come to terms with the situation, for them to know that this is happening, for them to gain closure. Because if you hide this information, they'll keep having questions. And inside them...
So they'll feel abandoned.
They feel abandoned even if you give them a good life. They'll feel like you don't provide them everything because the love of the parent is lacking and you're protecting them. You're refusing to give them what they feel they require most. So it is important for them to come to terms. And even in cases of loss, like for example, death in a family, let them know that this death has happened and this person will never come back. If it is an arrest, let them know this person is going to be in jail for this number of years. God willing, if they are able to ask for an appeal and they come out earlier, we'll thank God. If it doesn't happen, then we will have to wait for them to come back. But know that your mother or your father would have done anything possible to give you a good life. And in this instance, since she's not there, I will also play that role. So as the kids in my care, please allow me to be able to play that role for you.
And of course, generally for us as society, because there's the issue of transference. So when you have a family who perhaps either the mother or the father has been incarcerated, society tends to have a habit of now also prosecuting the children. So it's like the sins of the father or the mother now becomes the sins of the children. So there's a lot of stigma also behind this issue. And when we talk to these families, this is something that really came out very loud and clear. And when it comes to stigma, usually it is you and I. So when we understand the issue that is in incarceration, having a parent being locked behind bars, it's not the kids' fault. If anything, these kids need more understanding, more love from a school point of view with the teachers, because you're asking them to bring parents, the parents are not available. So there needs to be some level of understanding or also delicateness. If you're a parent and your child is a friend with a child whose parent is behind bars, there are a lot of opportunities for you to actually bring that child within your own family, you know, for them not to miss out on that parental love. And then also there's the other side of this, because from a spousal point of view, it's very interesting. I came across an article that says, to date in Kenya, if a man or a woman is arrested and they're serving perhaps, you know, a very, very long jail term, they do not have conjugal rights. Oh my God, look at you, what do you mean? And you're the we don't have conjugal rights in Kenya. You cannot go visit your spouse in prison.
Well, this right for visitation.
You can visit them, but conjugally. Conjugally means enjoying the benefits that come with marriage.
Marriage.
Yes, so our Kenyan prison system does not allow for that.
Yes.
But isn't that tragic?
Well, once you are arrested and you're actually imprisoned, and the reason why we imprison you as a state is to ensure that you're actually streamlined and that you go through a correction. And this correction has to take away some of your rights. And one of them is right of movement. And therefore you are confined into a cell somewhere whereby
so you agree
you
with
can't
this,
leave.
with this lack of conjugal visits?
They're not, are they inherent, are they for example, the rights among the top 5 rights that you have? For example, right to good health, right to housing, right to, conjugal right comes down there on that list.
Okay, but in the context of, and because this is now an issue that is slowly gaining momentum, but I've been coming across the articles, and it's definitely a show that I'm looking forward to doing in 2020, because on one hand you have, we know we joke about it, that in prison when you drop soap, you know what happens. So because of the lack of conjugal visits, you now have this other issue that is creeping up in the prisons, whereby now men are raping other men because they're coming up with the excuse that I'm a man, I have needs. If I'm not allowed to see my wife, then unfortunately now other forms of evils develop within the prisons. So people who are working within that sector are actually now coming and saying, perhaps it's time that the government actually looks into this, because you have innocent people being victimized within the very system that is hoping to rehabilitate them.
I totally agree that this is something maybe that should be looked at, whereby beyond taking away these rights that we have said we are taking and correcting the criminal who has actually been incarcerated in a prison, then we need to look at, well, their rights are not also taken away. For example, going through such a crime whereby there is rape and there is actually even denying them of food. We've seen the other day some graduates who got low degrees in prison, and therefore beyond just being in correction, then you need to have your other rights also safeguarded,
Absolutely.
not taken away from you.
And I'm curious, what are your views, Nancy? Do you feel like it's something that should now be put in place?
But I'd look at it psychologically. The reason why you're in that confined environment is so that you can go through the correction. And when they take away the right, it's uniform for everyone. Okay, so there are those who are in prison and they have spouses, and there are those who don't have spouses. So if you allow those who have spouses to come for conjugal rights,
but that is what it is.
Yes.
It is conjugal rights. You must prove that I have a spouse, and who is a spouse? Someone that you're legally married to. It's
now
not for girlfriends
they are
and boyfriends.
still human. They are
Yes.
still human, and the ones who have no spouses still were going through the normal life processes. They were still having relationships and probably even engaging in sex. Okay, so it doesn't mean that if you didn't have a spouse, you are not engaging in sex. So if your inmate the wife comes in prison and has that taken care of, you who have no one legally, then what happens to you? You know, the built up and pent up rebellion and anger will be too much. You may even find those women who are going to take care of their husbands for that need end up being raped, you know, by the other inmates. Or the man who has gotten this satisfaction, once he goes back, the others are like, okay, so you're sorted. I'll also now, you know, they take their anger on this person. So the bigger question will be, how do you psychologically take care of these men in prison so such that they don't feel the need to rape another person as opposed to introducing another object from the outside? Because if you introduce an object from the outside, then you have no control of the reaction that will happen.
Okay, so I want to put that question to you. Do you believe that people who are convicted and serving jail time should be allowed conjugal visits? What are your thoughts on this topic? And I do promise you that this is something that we will dedicate an entire show to probably next year. So I'll be doing some research and coming back with this hot topic. Well, right now, moving on, another topic that I touched on here was on childhood marriage. So this is something that, believe it or not, is still happening in our country. We have girls as young as 9 years, 10 years in some parts of this country being married off to men who are old enough to be their grandfathers. So in the context of this, I sat down with one Halima, who was almost a victim of childhood marriage. But for her, it was more or less her choice. And a lot of viewers were a bit confused that Halima seems to still want to get married. Take a look.
Sasa akaona wacha ule mmoja asome na mimi nikae juu kwa na uwezo.
So ule mmoja akiwa saa mdogo wako?
Yes.
So saizi ulikuwa na you're 17, mdogo wako ana umri gani?
No, yeye ndo ni mkubwa.
Yeye ndo mkubwa wako?
Yes.
So ana miaka ngapi yeye? 19. Na yeye ameolewa?
No.
Hajaolewa?
Yes.
So ikawa aje basi wewe ndo akakuchagua sasa uolewe?
Hakuchagua, ni mimi nilijitakia.
Wewe ulijitakia?
Yes.
So why did you want to get married?
Because I'm not in school.
Because you're not in school?
Yes.
So did you identify a husband?
Yes.
For yourself?
Yes. Wakasema ati nikae hapo, nikakaa almost for 21 days.
Kule Shofko. Na hiyo wakati wazazi wako bado walikuwa wameshikwa ama walikuwa
wameachiliwa? Wao waliachiliwa hiyo siku ya harusi usiku, mimi nikakaa siku 2 ndani.
Na yule sasa bwana ambaye ulikuwa unafaa kuolewa kwake alikuwa wapi?
Wao walikuwa wameenda nyumbani.
So ile siku sasa venye harusi ikakatizwa wao wakaenda kabisa wakapotea?
Wao walienda kwao. Sasa wao wakushikwa.
Nyinyi ndio mnishikwa sasa kwa familia yenu?
Sasa wao wakasema maskari wakasema wanatafuta kijana pia.
Na yule kijana alikuwa umri wa age gani? Rika moja na wewe ama mzima kukushinda?
Ni 29 years.
Ako 29 na ulikuwa na 17. So ulikuwa unaolewa kama bibi wa kwanza, wa pili, wa tatu? Wa kwanza. So yenye ilikuwa ni mapenzi?
Yeah.
Right. So this was one of my most memorable shows to do in 2019. And when we come back, I'll be telling you some more about it. But right now, it's time for a very quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk. So I did a show on early childhood marriage and just trying to raise awareness about this very important issue. And I traveled far. And I say far because what was supposed to be a 30-minute drive ended up being almost like a 2-3 hour drive. I kid you guys not, I almost went to Tanzania. But nevertheless, I was very excited to bring this story to you because I traveled all the way to Kimana in Kajiado County and I visited the Lankai Children's Center and met some amazing girls who have been through so much in their young lives. And it was very sad speaking to a 13-year-old, speaking to a 14-year-old who tells you the horrors that she had to endure because her parents saw it fit to get her married simply because of her gender and simply because beyond marriage, the community doesn't necessarily recognize her value as a person. Very painful stuff. Take a look.
Kuna miaka 14, nilipeana nikiwa na 11. Kuna miaka 14. Wazazi wangu wamenipeana nikiwa na miaka 12.
Na umri miaka 15. Wazazi wangu walipeana nikiwa na umri wa miaka 12.
Wazazi walinipeana nikiwa na miaka 12.
Naomba kuambia wazazi wetu waache ukeketaji wasichana na kupeana wasichana wakiwa wadogo.
Na mimi ningependa kuambia wazazi wa Kimasai waache hiyo ya kukeketa wasichana ama kuwapatiana wakiwa wadogo.
Nataka kuambia wazazi wa Kimasai sasa tukawaonya waache hiyo tabia ya kupeana wasichana wakiwa wadogo. Hiyo kwa sababu haifai. Tunahitaji hata sisi kusoma na tujifaidi baadaye katika maisha yetu.
So all those little wonderful girls are all heroes because, and a lot of times you guys will not get to see this because when we get there, you really have to spend time connecting with them. And when I'm doing my shows, I'm very conscious that with children, you have to take a very difficult approach. So for a lot of them in the beginning, you could tell that the pain was still there, and I was very proud of the girls because they were able to get past their discomfort and actually choose to share their stories because they hoped by somebody seeing, they would actually recognize this evil that is still happening in our society in 2020. And probably Wakili now, from a legal point of view, I think this is just obvious. Childhood marriage is illegal in Kenya.
Yes.
And this year you had some, and I will say it, some fools trying to lower the age
Consent,
to 16,
yeah.
the age of consent. And really, we should want better for our children because 16, you're still a child. What do you know about life? You may be coming from an environment whereby perhaps you're limited, but that limitation doesn't necessarily mean that now we should give up on you.
True. The age of marriage, consent, adult is actually 18 years of age, and therefore if you take advantage of a child, because anyone who is under the age of 18 is a child, and marry them off or force them to get married, then you're committing a crime, which the community, I would urge them to come out and actually perpetrate this crime, because it's actually a crime for you to force a child to get married. And there was an interesting, if I'm allowed to say this, there was an interesting case the other day. I was in court, and this individual who is around 30, 40 years of age had actually would a 14-year-old Form 1 student.
Yeah.
And by giving them 100 shillings one day, and the next time they gave them a phone, and they were doing this to just sleep with these kids, and the case is still ongoing, and therefore this shows that we can be able, the law is actually here to protect the children against even such crimes like that's actually sexual assault. And now for anyone who is married off, also that qualifies to be sexual assault.
And in that context, also the parents can get arrested.
Yes.
So the person who's marrying the child, the parents who are supporting this marriage, and now probably Nancy, because, and guys, we live in a twilight world because you see everything, and I literally will see a lot of things in the context of doing these shows. You have instances whereby it's the child who wants to get married. And the child will tell you up front, I want to get married. You're talking to a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, and they've decided they want to get married. So how do you handle that?
And try and understand what is the child running away from.
And that is always it.
Yes.
They are running away from a toxic home environment.
Exactly. They are not comfortable, and they feel you're not providing them that safe environment. And so since you're not providing it, they feel that they can get it from somebody else. I find it, an 8-year-old would not tell you that I want to get married. But a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old would probably tell you that I want to get married, because in their developmental stage, that is the stage where they are trying to identify.
Puberty.
Yes, there is puberty, there are all these hormone things going on around in their body, but mentally they are also trying to identify what their role is in life. And if you don't come anywhere close to giving them what they perceive as ideal, then they will repel you. They will sort of try to look for attraction from somebody else. And as he says, the child who was being given 100 shillings, maybe at home, the parent is very, very strict. and does not provide for the needs of that child. So they feel this man gives me this and I don't talk about it with anyone and I'm free to use it anyhowly, then the only gratitude I can give this person is by accepting what he requests me to do, because when I do that, he will continue to give me more favors. So understand what this child is running away from. And if they come to you as a parent, don't be too aggressive in your response to it, you know. Be able to communicate to them in the language that they are talking to you back at. So if they tell you they want to get married, find out, why do you want to get married? How do you think your life is going to be once you get married? You know, talk about the logic of it. They've obviously seen you, how you've been, you know, doing as you raise them up. Ask them, do they think that find out if they think they will get a better life than what you're giving them, or how they plan to go about it. You know, if you place that on the table and try to show them A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, and this is how it has been because I have experienced life in this manner, then is this what you want, or is there an alternative that you would want better for yourself? Do you think you're in the right age right now to make that hefty decision? And even if you got married right now, don't you want to get some work? Don't you want to make better of your life? Will you just be, say, a mother in the home? What will your child look up to? You know, beyond you just being a mother. You know, the inspiration comes from you as a female figure. If you're just a home keeper, then what will the child get from you? You understand?
So it all comes down to what are you teaching your child from an early age. So parent, you cannot run away from your responsibility as a parent on this issue.
You can.
So if you prepare your child right, prepare a safe home environment, you have children who are less likely to say at 14, I want to get married.
Yes.
Because you've taught them at 14, you should be going to school. After school, take some time, build yourself up. Some very important issues, because we are living in a very different world. And I kind of feel like also for parents, the thing about parenting, and I'm learning this also as a young parent, at every different stage your child is in, you also have to evolve. You have to meet them.
Exactly.
Because their needs change constantly. So probably how you were parented is not necessarily the way that you will parent your child in today's world. Children want to be heard, children want to be, they want to know that I matter. Children want to know that my opinion has been considered. So it's not just what do you call it? The dictatorship. My way, my house. That doesn't work anymore. And okay, so on a lighter note, I also did a show called In the Line of Duty. So this was a show whereby, because today we've talked about everything that's touching on the law, crime, what happens, how do you protect yourself. But there are the men and women who are in the service who help us to maintain law and order every single day. So I invited them into the studio, and this was one of the funnest shows to do. And fun in the sense that I think before starting the show, even for us, myself, the crew and everyone, we were a bit tense. Because, you know, when you see that many policemen, but that was the whole idea. After doing the show, we actually realized and came to appreciate that these are just ordinary people like you and I. Granted, there are some bad elements within the Kenya Police Service, but it's not everyone. There are people who actually have the heart of the people, leading them every day when they leave their houses, knowing that they're putting their lives in the risk just to protect you and I. So it was very important to meet these types of police officers, understand what it is they do, and ultimately just try to endorse that message of si lazima tuogope polisi. If anything, we can work hand in hand with the policemen just to make sure that we have safer communities and a better society altogether. Take a look. So I'm here with the ladies of the Kenya Police Service. Semeni, hey! Are you seeing how cool they are? Okay. I'm here with the ladies of the National Police Service. Are you seeing how cool they are? Semeni, hey! Ni warembo tu kama mimi na wewe. Are you seeing? No, wamejipodoa wote. So makeup is not illegal when you're a policewoman, I'll tell you that. Hair is on flick. Kuna wenye wana madredi pale chini. Kuna wenye mawig na mawiv. So ni madam tu kazi hizi.
Thank you. Stoy hapo. Thank you very much. Haya. Unanakoa. Beta chini. Aya. Sawa, let's go. Hapo tu. Hey, weka bazo. Weka tu. Hey. Haya. Tunaleta kidogo let's go. Hey, kando.
Right, so there we had policemen dancing and just being normal, you know. Mtu, unaogopa polisi?
No, they're my friends.
No.
So I'm sure not everybody can say that, but it was very interesting because even for us after the show, because we had so much fun with them, they were at some point, they were very easy, they were very, you know, receptive to the message from the people in the audience, that sometimes you can be very scary. And what I found interesting was after the show, the fact that I had another show that I had to get to, but they wanted to take selfies. And nobody wanted to tell them that, you know, we are short of time. So it was like, had they decided they wanted to take selfies the whole day, nobody would have hurried them along, because after all, they are the policemen. But nevertheless, I had a fantastic time doing the shows that we did, and I really hope that these shows have made an impact in the society. And really, this is one of the shows that we do here at Switch TV, and we say, even if we change one person's life, that is enough. Because if you look at history, sometimes it takes one person to make a difference in the world. So whoever that person he is, and whichever way that this show touches your life, please feel free to reach out and do let us know via the hashtag Real Talk with Tamima, and also via the SMS line. Well, that's all the time I have today. Until next time, this has been The Round Table.
Special thanks to E+ for medic and ambulance services.